With the afternoon sun high in the sky, the party began their journey on the main road toward the town of Teu to find Chasiana and recover their carriage, while Mavis stayed behind in the manor to finish his invention before the inventory. After 2 days of travel, the party arrived in the town of Teu and pretty quickly found Chasiana sitting with Alcaeus in the local tavern known as the Crooked Nook. After a little bit of catching up and sharing only what they needed to, Chasiana accepted that she didn't need all the information and instead proposed a toast to a job well done. Alcaeus offered the party a couple sacks of potatoes for the journey ahead and a sack of carrots for Fenge upon May's request. Chasiana showed the group to the carriage and then decided that she'd spend one more night in Teu before heading home to reconnect with Oliver. Gar discussed taking a small amount of the potatoes to play a prank on Mavis, given the disdain that Mavis has for potatoes, especially from Teu, although he had not decided on the specifics of the prank yet. Finally, Gar purchased a cask of mead from the Crooked Nook and a set of mugs, and the party left the town of Teu, officially continuing their journey towards Sprocketon. Over the next few days, the group traveled through the Freelands, a landscape that varies between beautiful rolling green, grassy hills and flat, grassy steppes, with occasional small gatherings of trees and sporadic farmland. After a couple days of travel, the group realized that Mavis should be finished with his invention, and decided to construct a makeshift doorway to use the manor key and return to the Midway Manor. May and Laren worked together to bind some javelins that May carried with her, successfully creating a temporary makeshift doorway to link to the Midway Manor. Gar walked through the door, and Gunther explained that Mavis was in the memoriam room. Gar took the opportunity to place 2 potatoes at the entrance to Mavis's room before storing the rest and joining Mavis in the memoriam room. Gar cleared his throat to announce his presence after seeing Mavis holding a brass 4-spoked cog near the memoriam. Mavis explained that his invention was complete, along with a collapsible doorframe and the chillable mug that he and Gar had discussed. Mavis went to retrieve his inventions for the journey ahead, and noticed the 2 potatoes outside his door, managing to put 2 and 2 together even in his exhaustion, and vowing to get Gar back for it. After returning to the foyer, Gar noticed a new contraption on Mavis's back, a barrel about the size of Mavis, held on his back by leather backpack straps with 3 iron bands around the circumference of the barrel. Gar asked to see the contraption, but Mavis said he would keep it a surprise unless forced to reveal it before the inventory. Then the 2 returned to the material plane, rejoining the rest of the group. After demonstrating the collapsible doorframe to the group, Mavis hopped onto the carriage to get some rest, while May attempted to help Gar gain the trust of Fenge so the 2 of them could trade off driving the carriage for the journey. As the sun fully set on the Freelands, the party rested for the evening, and though Gar heard the occasional howling of wolves during his watch, the group was able to get a full night's rest. The next day, the party continued their journey towards Sprocketon. As they traveled, the terrain slowly became more rocky, with occasional jagged breaks in the grassy terrain, massive boulders jutting out of the ground, and sudden changes in elevation, creating a few small cliffsides and short valleys. Along the way, Gar used the sending spell to contact Anton, the owner of the Fisher's Trick back in Sunset Valley, and father to Mara, the little girl that the party saved from the clutches of Athenor and the Order of the Dark Knight. Gar simply asked how things were and how everyone was doing, and Anton explained that investigations had begun on Sehenine's tower, that it appeared inert, and that Mara and her brother James missed the group. Gar couldn't help but smile at the memories of the simple life that the folks of Sunset Valley live, and shared his conversation with the rest of the group. Upon remembering the events of Sunset Valley, the party recalled that Marcon, the old mentor of the group, had said he was leaving Sunset Valley in search of information on what the Order of the Dark Knight may be planning, and Gar decided that he was going to use sending to contact him about any details, when suddenly the party was interrupted by 2 individuals ahead of them, in Guard's armor, insisting that the group needed to pay a toll to continue on the road. The 2 individuals claimed that the toll was instituted by order of the Circle of 8, stating that each member of the group needed to pay 50 gold pieces to proceed. It didn't take long for most everyone to realize that they were being played. Gar looked around for any sights of an ambush and noticed archers lying in wait in nearby high ground at the top of 15-foot-high cliffs. Everyone in the group declined paying any toll, except for May, who insisted that the party must follow the laws of the land. The 2 guards called back towards their boss, who said that if they don't pay the toll, they pay with their lives, and with that, the party engaged the bandits in combat. Immediately, 2 archers fired a barrage of arrows toward Gar. May shielded him from one of the strikes, but already the bandits had the advantage. Mavis realized now was the time to test his invention. As he activated the barrel on his back, it grew in size and enveloped Mavis entirely, as legs and arms popped out of the barrel, and Mavis now operated his barrel battle bot, standing about as tall as the rest of his party at this point. Zeus unleashed a loud, terrifying, bestial roar that the party had never heard before, echoing through the small cliffsides in an attempt to scare away the two initial bandits, though the bandits maintained their composure. Over the course of the battle, the bandit captain engaged Gar directly in battle, calling down the full force of the archers on him after Gar unleashed a powerful burst of necrotic energy on the bandit captain. Laren teamed up with Mavis to take care of a bandit flanking the group, while May channeled divine magic from Ilmater to protect and heal the group. It became clear that Gar was receiving the full force of the archer's shots due to the captain's command, and after another barrage of arrows, Gar fell unconscious. Laren managed to reach him in time to administer a healing potion, and the battle became a rush to protect Gar from the onslaught. Gar continued to repeatedly fall unconscious and recover until eventually an archer got a lucky shot, managing to pierce Gar's chest with an arrow while he was unconscious, as the last bit of breath escaped Gar's lungs, and Gar died on the battlefield. The party felt their hearts sink as they saw their friend's body lie dead on the ground, and they channeled that sorrow into rage, specifically on the archer that dealt the finishing blow. May felt an anger rise inside of her as she felt her mind reach out toward every bandit within range, causing terror in half of them, as the majority of the bandits began to run away in fear. Mavis used a grappling hook from his battlebot to pull the archer from his perch, and as the rest of the bandits made their escape, the group unleashed the full force of their power, taking revenge on this archer, leaving him a disfigured mess on the ground. The battlefield grew silent, with no sounds but the wind, and the realization hit. May picked up Gar's body and placed it on the carriage, and the party discussed their options, eventually resolving that they had to hold out hope that there would be a temple in Sprocketon that would be able to help in some way, to possibly bring their friend back, and the group rode off with haste. Gar awoke to the sound of waves gently washing over him, seagulls in the distance, and a warm breeze flowing through the air. As he slowly blinked awake, he looked around and found himself in a sea of endless cyan-colored water with blue skies overhead. He lifted his head as he heard a voice call out, "Come on, Gar, get up." And he saw the silhouetted figure of his uncle Jarlan, the captain of his ship that sank on the coast of Sunset Valley. Gar asked if they were dead, and Jarlan responded saying, "I think we are. Follow me. The others are waiting." As Gar began to follow, he heard a voice gently call from behind him, "Not so fast." As he turned around and saw a woman standing before him, beautiful in her appearance, with long flowing blonde hair and a silk robe colored white and cyan that almost seemed to echo the motions of the waves around them. Without the need for introduction, Gar knew this was Melora, and she simply said, "I didn't expect to see you here quite yet." Gar had a somber acceptance as he contemplated the notion of reuniting with his crew, but Melora simply said that it wasn't Gar's time yet and motioned for him to follow her. Melora briefly explained the basics of the domain of a deity, saying that Gar was a cleric of the war domain, even though her charge was over that of the Tempest domain. She explained that she cares for all that are on the sea that ask for her protection, and that she has seen a ferocity in Gar that can be unmatched, and a kindness that is unyielding. She raised her hands and a wall of water rose from the sea, and in its shimmering waves Gar saw an image of him kneeling on the other side of a cell, motioning for Mara to join him with his hand outstretched. Melora explained that on the night of the storm, she chose him as her champion for a purpose that Gar does not yet fully know. She explained that on the night his ship sank, she was not the one that caused the storm, that it was not the defenses of Sunset Valley that sank his ship. Melora said that the storm was caused by an enemy of hers, and that Gar and his crew were caught in the middle. Finally, Melora said that she has spoken with Kelemvor, known to some as the god of death, to others as the gatekeeper, and she struck a deal with him. Melora raised her hand again, and docks rose from the water that ended in a T-shape. On the left side, Gar saw his old ship and his uncle Jarlan currently inspecting the ship before departure, and on the right side sat an empty fishing vessel. Melora explained that her deal with Kelemvor has given Gar a choice, a single chance to return to the land of the living. He could either rejoin his crew to sail on the endless sea, or board a new ship to rejoin his party on the other side. Gar walked up to his uncle, who simply said, "Well, I see you've met her. She's been good to us. The endless sea has been, well, a journey." Gar now noticed the figures of Arbor and Arjun, Two of the deckhands on the ship walk out of the captain's chambers as they both called out toward Gar, asking if he was here to join them. Jarlan stood with furrowed brows as he analyzed Gar's expression, unsure of the decision Gar was going to make. Gar took a good look at his ship, his crew, and Melora, as he asked a single question. "Nephair?" And Gar's uncle responded, "We thought she was with you." And in this moment, Gar realized that after all these years of wondering, these years of eventual acceptance, Nephair was still alive. Melora confirmed his suspicions as she simply said, "Gar, you're not the only one that survived that night, and if you should choose to go back, there may be yet another life you can save." Melora said that Gar did not need to hurry in this decision, and Gar asked if he could see his friends. Melora raised another wall of water at the end of the docks, and Gar saw another image appear of his body lying in the carriage, Mavis sitting near him with a downcast expression, Laren with head in one hand and her other hand on Gar's shoulder, Zeo slowly moving his hands in a repetitive motion over Gar's body, attempting to use ice magic to preserve him, and May at the front of the carriage pushing Fengay to his limits in a mad dash for help, with her prayer beads sitting on Gar's chest. Melora lowered the wave as she said that it was clear that his group is not ready for him to leave. Melora said that the last she saw of Nephair, she was in Port Dalen, and it didn't seem like she was there by her own choice. Finally, Melora softly told Gar to take his time, reunite with his crew, and to not make his decision hastily. Gar stood still, overwhelmed by the circumstance, and simply said that he needed time.